Hey, what's up? It's Jared. Today I have a Notion tutorial for you. We are going to build a 5-minute journal. Now, 5-minute journal is a popular paper journal. It comes in a form of a notebook that you can buy online, and I've actually had one and done the 5-minute journal before. I got one for my son, and he and I both did the 5-minute journal together. There is a kids edition, which is pretty cool. But the 5-minute journal is a simple practice of journaling in the morning and the evening, and it is just an easy way to get into journaling and kind of putting some thoughts down. It's a very simple process. There are some questions that you respond to in the morning and the evening, and that is basically it. But as I've been utilizing Notion, all of my journaling practices, as well as other things like note-taking, project management, all of those different things are in Notion. And so I've wanted to utilize the 5-minute journal, but in Notion. Now, I do a daily log, and I've talked about my daily log in other videos, and that daily log borrowed originally from some 5-minute journal aspects and also the full focus planner, basically like a lot of different things that I liked from different journaling platforms I pulled together and kind of made my own daily log, including tracking some other things that I wanted to track within my daily log. But now I'm wanting to kind of get back to the simplicity of the 5-minute journal. I've kind of fallen away from actually daily logging, and it's become something that has not been, I guess, sustainable, or it's just not a common practice. My daily log is now kind of whenever I want to jump in there, and the 5-minute journal is a daily practice that is the same every day, which is what makes it sustainable and easy to repeat. So we're going to build that out together here in Notion, and I'm going to make it available as a template. So if you want to download the template, you can do so with the link down in the description. But I highly encourage you to build this out yourself, because you can get to know Notion better and start building your own stuff as you become more familiar with Notion. So we want to click on the plus button. You can do that right within a folder, or you can start at a top level. We want to create a new page. So we're going to click there and create a new page. I'm going to call this the 5-minute journal. Of course, I got to spell it right. And now you're going to want to select a table database. Now, it doesn't matter what database you choose. We will choose different views for our database just to make it fun as we get further through this project. But we're just going to start out with table, and I'm going to walk you through the initial setup here. So a table is going to start out with a name, tags, and files columns. And the name we're not really going to use. I'm going to use this for a date. And I'm mainly using this for a date because you can't get rid of this column. The name column is there. There's no way to really get rid of it. We can, of course, move it off to the side or something, but I've utilized this with my daily log as just making this the date, and I manually type in the date. Now, you don't have to do it this way if you want to give every day an interesting name. Maybe you're a little bit more creative than me and you want to give every day its own name, then you can totally do that. But I am going to rename this, just call it date, and I will manually type in the date every single day. This is a little tedious, but it is a way that we will be able to sort our journal by date, even if we make a mistake or miss a day and we go and fill in the previous days. And I'll explain why that's important to do it this way later. So in order to utilize this as a sort option, we have to be typing in our date in an appropriate fashion so that it can be sorted by ascending or descending. And so I've always done this with numbering my files and stuff. So for example, I'll just drag in my window here. You can see that all of my projects are of this date format where it's 2-digit year, 2-digit month, 2-digit day. And I do it that way so that it just falls into an order, and it makes it very simple. So today is April 16th, so I would put in 200416, and that would be today's date. And so I'm just kind of giving you an example there. Now, tags are something that you can utilize if you wanted to be able to categorize. In my daily log, I use the tags option as a way to track like the way I'm feeling for the day, so different emotions or something like that. But initially in this setup, we are going to change this to day of the week. And so I'm going to put in and choose select, and then we will just call this one DOW, day of the week. or you could put day if you don't like that. And then we can put Monday. And of course, it just automatically color coded those. You can color them however you would like. Today is Thursday, so I'll just go ahead and choose Thursday, and we'll shrink down this one. So files is something I'm not going to utilize, but I do want a created date to automatically show up. So I'm going to change files. We're going to put created here, and then go and choose created time, and it's going to put the created date and time. Now, the reason that we aren't going to use this column here as a sort option later is because, say for example, I didn't get my journaling done yesterday. It just wasn't able to happen, but I wanted to go in and at least fill in a date for the journal for yesterday. I would go and create a new entry, and it would give it today's date, and that wouldn't work because the sort would be off. And for me, I like all of my stuff to be sorted appropriately, and so I would most likely want my entries to be sorted by the actual date that I meant them to have, not necessarily the created date. Now we can also add an updated, like a last updated date as well, which would be good because then we can see the last time that we were in that particular journal entry. I may move that one down there just a little bit. And so these columns, you can kind of add whatever you want to them. I may add like a tags later, like some sort of keywording that I can use for sorting. Basically, any of these fields here we are going to use so that we can sort. We could sort by date. We can sort by the day of the week. Show me all of the Thursdays because I want to see my Thursdays. Or, of course, updated and created are kind of just there for our own information. We probably won't use those for any sort of filtering or sorting. But if we wanted to do some sort of keywording, we could choose multi-select and, do like keywords or feelings or something like that, like feeling, and then I could put in some feelings like happy, sad, mad, confused, whatever, and just have several of those in there that I can utilize whenever I want to kind of tag a day with a specific feeling. Keep in mind, this is not the template that we are going to fill out every single day. These are just aspects that we're going to have that we can utilize for sorting in a future time. So I'm going to delete these additional entries that are there. We don't really need those. And so from there, we can start to build out our template. And our template is what we're going to fill out on a daily basis. So to do that, we will next go over here to the blue New button, and then underneath that, choose Template. Now you can see here it has the items that we just created in the columns, and so I'm going to order those appropriately. I'll put created at the bottom, updated, feeling, and day, and then of course we'll just leave that as untitled because that is where we were going to type in our date. And so when we type in our date, it will automatically add that to the far left column, which we later on will create a sort order for, so that when we fill out our journal, it is in the order in which the daily order, like we would if we were using a paper journal. All right, so down here in the body, this is where we're going to create our template, and I'm going to show you just we're going to do a basic template here with a couple of extra fun things just to make it a little more interactive, but you can create this however you want. If you don't want this to be exactly like a typical 5-minute journal entry, you don't have to. This is where you have creative license to kind of do whatever it is that you want to do. Now, one thing that I did try to do is make it so that it would dynamically pull in a quote of the day, but because Notion has some limitations by not having an API or really any way to pull in dynamic information that could then be written to a page, that's not something that we can do yet. So I do like the idea of having a quote there, even though it's something that I'm going to have to do on my own. I'm going to go ahead and put a quote box in here, and it's just going to be an empty quote because I will go ahead and paste a quote in from an app that I have on my smartphone, and I'll list a couple of apps that I use just for motivational quotes and stuff like that. I will essentially just be going and copy and pasting, and I'll show you at the end how I do that. I'll share the screen with my phone so that you can see how I jump between a different app and copy and paste in a quote. Now, I also like to take pictures, and so I want to be able to add a photo and just have a visual aspect to this, and I want that to be kind of up in the forefront of this particular page. And so I will put a image here. We're just going to go ahead and put an image block in place. And I may actually do a few of these because I don't want it to be full width like that. I want to have the option to have a couple of them. So we're going to duplicate this and then drag it over to the side, and you can see it does a side by side. I think I'm probably just going to go with 2, and that's probably plenty for me. Now, I also want to put in an empty quote space just for a thought of the day. Thought of the day. And then we'll put a divider underneath it. Now, one thing it didn't do was bring that down to another line. Notice how it is breaking off here. I want it to be the complete width, and then we'll bring quote of the day or thought of the day underneath that. So it probably makes sense that I do that up top as well. So let's just go ahead and duplicate and bring this up, and we'll put quote of the day. And then underneath that, put a divider. There we go. I want to also add the basics of the 5-minute journal now, which is I am grateful for. And we're gonna break this up into quadrants here, so we have kind of a left and a right side. If you're viewing this on a smartphone, it will be stacked. It won't be 2-column like we're gonna do right here. But it is kind of nice to have a little bit more space if you are doing this on a computer. I know sometimes I am utilizing my iPad, and so it's nice to not have to scroll as much. All right, so we are going to add a H3 title, and then we will actually just duplicate this. Then we'll go over and place these next to each other like so. Could put a little divider underneath it just to keep things looking nice. Now, there are 2 ways that you can make your list. If you know that you're just going to list 3 things, and that's it, which is basically just like the 5-minute journal, you could simply just put 1, 2, 3 in there and have them ready to go. Easy. Or you could, just to keep things nice and clean, you could do a template button. And so if we did a template button and configured that template button to be add item, we'll take this and actually turn this into a numbered list, like so, and hit close. Now every time we hit this, it adds another item like that, and we can just make the list go as long as you want it to go, and it will grow in size. So that's kind of nice. I like that. So we can actually duplicate this. We want it to be underneath here. It was going full width if you didn't notice that. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this and bring it over to this side, and except we're going to make this one a bulleted list instead. So we will turn this into a bulleted list like so. So now over on the left-hand side here for I am grateful, we have a numbered list, and what would make today great, we have a bulleted list. So now we need to work on our affirmations. The next thing that we would typically list is the daily affirmations, like the I am statement. And so I want to add that. Now you could do this in one of 2 ways. I know in the journal itself, it is kind of a statement. So you would make a statement, you'd write out a sentence or something like that. You could also make it a list. I think this would be another good opportunity to use a template button like we utilized here, because maybe you want it to be a list instead, or you want to add more than one thing, but not be so limited as to only one item. So we'll go ahead and add another header, an H3, and we will make sure that's going full width there. Underneath that, we'll add a divide, and then underneath that, we will add a template button. And we will configure that template button to be a bulleted list, add a new affirmation, close. And that's basically our start of the day. And so we might actually want to separate this so that it is like a morning and evening. That was something that I was just kind of thinking of. And so let's go ahead and do a, let's see, there is a, like a call out. There we go. Let's do a call out. I'm going to change the emoji to like a sun. So we'll go ahead and grab a sun. I like that one. And then we can put morning in here. You could put whatever you want in here. It doesn't really matter. And I will drag this up underneath the thought of the day, and that kind of creates some separation as well, which is nice. So we'll duplicate this call out as well and bring it down below here, and we'll make this one our evening, and we'll change this to a moon just to represent the evening. So you can choose your favorite moon image, whichever one you would want it to be, and leave it at that. And then now we have to create the evening trackers, the things that we're going to mention in the evening. So we could very easily do that by just like duplicating some of the stuff that we have and dragging it down here. There is a way to kind of go and duplicate multiple things. So we could actually just select this and duplicate it. And then of course it threw it all over there in that section, but we can drag it all down here and then drag everything up right next to each other. All right, so now we would change this to 3 amazing things, or just amazing things that happened. And then we can do how could today have been better? That one went down to another line anyways. Amazing thing that happened today. Of course, these don't have to be headers. They can also be just regular text, and you can make them bold. So that's another thing that you can do. They don't have to be as large as I made them. It actually might make more sense to make them just bold text instead. And so I might go back and do that later. I'm not going to waste your time. So amazing things that happened today. This would be a numbered list. Let's just make sure that I put these in the correct order. Yes, a template for a numbered list. That means this one must be a bulleted list. Just to confirm, yes, it is. Very cool. And so now we have really just built out most of what the 5-minute journal is. Of course, like I said, you can add in additional things if you want to make this a little bit more dynamic. For example, you can add like a habit tracker. Maybe there are some habits that you are trying to make happen in your life. You can add those down here somehow by just making like check boxes or something like, did I do this today? Did I drink enough water? Did I exercise? And just add in a little bit of a tracker. And so you could really build this out just to make it as fun or dynamic as you want. So I'm just going to go ahead and give this a title here because I realized I don't want it to just be called untitled in our list. So we'll call this daily template. And that's all we really have to do there. We are done with our daily template. And so now when we go and open up this entry, which is the one that we had in there, it's not a page yet. So I can click daily template, and it's going to go ahead and apply our daily template. And of course, the date was already in there. So let's just delete that one out of there altogether. Now we have a completely empty database here. So if I click on the little twirl down, I can immediately create a daily template, or I can just hit new and then hit daily template, and it puts it in there. I could put in today's date, 20/04/16. I can choose the date. It is a Thursday. I can choose a feeling or whatnot just to kind of get things going here. Happy. We've got the dynamically created, updated, and created here. Now for my quote of the day, on another screen here, I'm just going to go ahead and pull in like a quote of the day just to put something in there, and boom, paste it right in, and then I can put the person's name as well if I wanted to. And we've got it. And so now I can also go and grab an image. Of course, I most likely would be doing this from a smartphone, not from my computer. I could put my thought of today or my thought of the day. I can then go and list an item that I'm grateful for, such as my family, having a job these days. I mean, that's definitely one. What would make today great? If I got a Notion tutorial uploaded, that would make today great, and spent some time with my kids. Those things would make today great. And then daily affirmations, I can tap add new affirmation, And then, of course, tonight I can come back and fill that out. So I want to add a couple more in here just for the sake of showing some sorting options, which I think is important. So I'm going to put in so that we have 3 of these in place. And just so that they have content in them, I'll go ahead and apply our template to them. Let's get rid of the empty one there. So now we have 3 of these. Let's put Wednesday in here and Tuesday here. And let's put confused for Wednesday and mad for Tuesday, even though I wasn't. So now we want to look at having some different views of our content here and also some different sort options. So let's click add a view. We're going to choose the board view, and this is just probably not a very useful one, but I think it might be kind of fun. And we'll just put by day, hit create, and now you can see here we have, let's get rid of the no day. So now we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then of course over off to the side Saturday and Sunday. And so this will continue to stack, and every day we will add a new one. So Friday there will be one, and then as we go through the week, then we will add more to the Tuesday column and the Wednesday column. And so we can start to see all of them by the day of the week, which might be interesting or might not, but this is just for an example. So to change what's showing up in the little box, we would go ahead and choose properties, and I could turn off the, say the updated and the created, doesn't matter because we already have the date in there. And then I can choose whether I wanted a page cover or something or page content. It will start to fill in some of the content, but that doesn't really work too well. So we'll just leave it at none, and we would have essentially no content. We would just have the date, and we would have mad or confused or whatever in there. That might not work too well for a view like this. Now, when we were in the default table view, I talked about these different columns being things that we can use that are sortable things that we can sort by. So it might not make necessarily as much sense to sort by day, because who cares if we could just see all of our journal entries for Tuesday. Maybe we want to sort by feeling instead. So we're going to change this to by feeling. And then instead of it showing group by day, we will choose group by feeling, and we can leave no feeling. Maybe we didn't even choose a feeling for the day, but now we can see all of the 5-minute journal entries for the days where you felt confused or happy or mad. And keep in mind that we can choose more than one. So if on this mad day, I add confused as a feeling as well, now we're going to have that day showing up on both this area and this area here, this column. So we can go and start to look at the days that had similarities in the way that we were feeling for the day. And that might lead you to some insight, because maybe if you go and view your 5-minute journal entries for the day, you can start to see some things that are consistent with why you were feeling upset on that day, or what made that day a great day. Maybe what made my day a great day is that I spent time with my kids, and on the days where I was sad, they were days that I didn't spend time with my kids or something like that. So that's kind of an interesting way of looking at it. And as you add more feelings to the list, this is going to get bigger. So I recommend only adding some like core feelings and not going too far down a rabbit hole of listing dozens and dozens of feelings. So another way that you might end up wanting to actually sort your journal entries is by viewing them on a calendar. So if we wanted to do that, we can add a new view, we could choose calendar, and then we can type in calendar. Now this is going to be a little bit of a predicament for us here, because this is showing by created, and it's only giving us the option of created or updated, which might not actually work. Created is only going to work if you remember to create your entry each day. Updated is only going to work if you last updated it on that specific day, but that might not work in the situation that we have right here, where I created Wednesdays and Tuesdays entries today on Thursday. There's absolutely no way that we can get these to show up in these other 2 spots unless we go and add a new property. So just to keep it in with our standard view here, let's add a new column property, and we'll call this date. And then we will choose date, and then I can go and I can add the 14th here, I can add the 15th here, and I can add the 16th here. Now this is starting to get a little redundant or maybe even cumbersome, because I'm putting in the date here, I'm choosing the date here, and then I have the date showing up dynamically here. So this is where maybe titling your entries with the date might not be what you want to do. You might want to use an actual word instead, or a sentence, or whatever you want to use to title your pages. You can do whatever you want there. But as you can see, mine is just the date, and you actually may want to customize that. So let's just, while I'm in here, move this up. Now I apologize if this tutorial is kind of falling apart as far as its cohesiveness, but I want to show you the options here, and that sometimes means jumping around a bit, so I apologize. Let's go back to the calendar view. You can see that we still have all of them showing up here. Let's now choose date instead, and you can see now they all fall into the appropriate positions. And if we want to show a little bit more, we can choose properties, we can choose feeling instead, and now feeling will show up as well. And of course, if we had additional column properties, those can be in there also. Very interesting indeed. So the last view we're going to look at is adding a gallery view, and I kind of like the gallery view because it reminds me of just kind of cards, or like a calendar that is not as structured. And so I'm just going to title this one Gallery. We'll choose the gallery view option and hit create. And you can see here we've got 15, 14, and 16. That is not an order in which anything makes sense. So we're going to go first and sort and create an add sort, and then we'll choose by the date, and we'll choose by descending. So descending puts the most recent first and then goes backwards from there. So as we create a new one, it will move these over to the right, and then as we have a fifth one, it will move the next one down to the next row. So by adding that date descending sort, it's putting those in the correct order. Now we can also filter. Filtering is things that are interesting, like if we wanted to filter our gallery by a specific feeling or something like that, we can do that. In this instance, I just don't think we have enough in here to do much. And so this is where you might look at what else can you put in as a property that would make sense for sorting. Now, don't get too carried away either, because the 5-minute journal is supposed to be simple, and if you get too carried away, you'll end up creating something that's a little too cumbersome to do on a daily basis, which is kind of what my daily log ended up turning into for me, until I brought it back a little bit by removing some of those properties. So customizing this, because this isn't a very good view here, we can go into properties and change basically from none, page cover, or content. Right now it's set to page content. We could also choose the size and go small. And so if we do small, it's basically just going to include the quote of the day and then the first sentence of thought of the day, which doesn't really make sense. It kind of cuts it off. But maybe it is nice to have that quote of the day. Essentially, it is just bringing in the first part of that particular page. We can also go with none and just simply have the date. We can also have the feeling there. We can bring in any of these other pieces of information that you want. We can even reorder them if you have multiple. So, for example, pulling these up and down reorders them in the actual little card list. And so that's definitely something you can do there. Now, there is an option for a page cover, which is an image. You can see nothing shows up here right now. If we do add an image to one of these, so let me go ahead and just grab an image. So here's an image from Disneyland. We'll go ahead and just throw this in there. And now that image is just about uploaded, and it is uploaded. You can see like it still isn't showing up as a page cover. Like, why isn't it there? Well, that's because you can't put the image there. You actually have to put it as the cover. So if I choose add a cover, you can see now it added the image up here. So this might be something that you want to do, is actually utilize the cover just to make this a little more visual. This is something that I did early on with my daily log that made it a little bit fun. Now we also have images down here in the body. And the difference that I think here is that with the images in the body of your entry, this means that if you ever wanted to export all of this and you wanted to export each of these as like a PDF page or something like that, it would include the images in it. I am not sure if the cover image would be included. So that might be where you want to focus more on putting the images in the body of your post, because if you ever want to export your 5-minute journal entries out into a PDF or into another application down the road, then it would be important to actually have those images within the body here. And then of course you can put whatever image you want. I can change the cover. I can click on upload. I can go and pick an image from my computer and put it right in as the cover image as well. And that's something that like I said, I definitely did with my daily log when I was utilizing my full page daily log template. So that's kind of a nice way of viewing the 5-minute journal as well. So depending on what view suits you best, you can of course have multiple views. And then if you wanted to display your 5-minute journal entries in another page, perhaps like maybe you have a dashboard page, you can easily do that as well. I'll talk about that in a video where I talk about how I built out my dashboard page. That'll be a future video of mine. But for right now, I kind of like what we've got going on here with our 5-minute journal. We've got an easy 5-minute journal that we can fill out on a daily. And so the last thing that we're going to look at is how I would fill this out on my smartphone every day. And then that's going to do it. So enjoy. I'll put some music behind it. I hope you enjoyed this video and this tutorial. I hope it helped you understand how to utilize Notion a little bit better. And of course, you can go and download the template that I just created right in front of you, utilizing the link in the description below. Make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel here if you want to see more tutorials. And of course, you can contact me on social media if you have any questions, or post a comment below this video as well. But that's it. Enjoy.